All right, here he is. I'm excited to bring him in. Rushed for over 10,000 yards in his career. University of Texas legend, a Heisman winner, and the founder of Highsman, Highsman. We're going to hear about that a lot. Ricky Williams is here. What's happening, Ricky?
Hey, what's going on?
Ricky, I hate to hit you with a gotcha question right off the bat, but it has to be done. And I hope you're not sensitive to this, but I need to ask, what is the most overrated and underrated Halloween candy?
Ooh, underrated is Snickers. I think Snickers is just a classic. You know, the combination of the chocolate and the peanuts. I think it's a go-to for at least for me.
Frozen.
I just like regular. I like the soft nougaty, like that bite where you get the soft but you get the hard peanuts. That combination, right. It's a classic.
Okay,
you can't beat it. And the most overrated.
Be careful.
Three Musketeers.
All right, yeah, that's good. That's
it's
a good one.
Same family.
But it's too chewy. I need the nuts. I need the nuts.
I've heard this before, and they're advertised just about as much as each other, Snickers and Three Musketeers. And that said, you're right. Three Musketeers has some work to do.
Do you remember the good old days with those Three Musketeer commercials?
Yeah, right.
We need to bring those back.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to put that together. I think Ricky. Maybe the commercials would help bring it back. All right, those are good answers. We said Hershey. What did you say, Martin? You had
Hershey.
Something. Yeah, Hershey is underrated.
Yeah, it's classic. It's a classic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My most underrated was Milk Duds, and my most overrated was anything to do with marshmallows. Like anything that has marshmallows involved.
You nailed it. Yeah.
Appreciate that, bro.
Are there any good marshmallow candy? Any?
No. Well, Charleston Chew doesn't count as marshmallow, right? Because it's like hardened. But I did enjoy them for a while.
Charleston Chews.
Yeah, the big ones too. The ones that could do damage. Ricky, I think you're just being nice to Martin. You will never have a Milk Dud again in your life.
No, I like Milk Duds.
You do?
I like Milk Duds, yeah.
Interesting.
Remember the sugar daddies and the sugar babies?
Right.
They were so good, but they would get stuck in your teeth forever.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of ups and downs in man's recorded history, and I don't think we properly celebrate how lucky we all are to have been here on the Big Blue Marble when somebody decided, you know what? Dark chocolate tastes good. Salt tastes good. Let's mix them together. Who decided to start putting salt on chocolate? I don't know, but I want to say thank you here and now to whoever did that, you know?
Well said.
Ricky, I have a question for you.
No, that's it. I think that's it. I think we let him go after the chocolate stuff.
That's enough. You're right. We've said it all already, Ricky. Hey, what do you think, though, about do you remember, you're maybe a little bit too young for this, but Rob Lowe got in a lot of trouble when he was at the height of his powers, acting-wise. He got in a lot of trouble for making time with a couple of girls, and it was a big social.
Where the hell is this going? All right.
It was all like, the end of the world. Society, the end of society was nigh because Rob Lowe made time with a couple of girls. And in hindsight, you're kind of like, That was a big deal with all that's going on in the 21st century. How raw are you about that you were borderline demonized by a lot of people in pro football, in the media and otherwise, for what in hindsight is kind of like, that's what people were upset with Ricky Williams about?
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it, I try to see the whole picture, is that there's so many things in the world that need to change. These stupid archaic ideas and rules, and it takes a scapegoat to bring those things to light. And I think because of people like me, and my story, it's caused people to take a second look and really say, is this right? And it takes people like that in order for us to get to this point where we can look back and say, that was really silly.
Mm-hmm. Did you think it would get to this point, or you're like, oh man, I'm on an island myself and I'm just always going to be, as Dave said, demonized? Or did you think, oh man, this is going to take 15, 20 years and then everyone's going to be smoking, everyone's going to be talking about it, everyone's going to be growing it in their yard? Or
cannabis is one of those interesting things where the way we talk about it is a very external thing. But when you actually consume it, it really sends you more internal. And so when I was going through all that, I was really on my own inner journey, and I wasn't really worried about what was going on with other people. But through my own inner journey, I realized this stuff is not bad. This is actually helping me understand myself and understand the world. And then I thought one day people were going to realize this. But when I studied the history of cannabis, this is kind of how it all started. People have been using cannabis for thousands of years to connect to other people and to connect to their environment.
Yeah, and it's like when people first started driving like hybrids or fuel efficient cars, and they looked a little weird, and like a celebrity would drive one, like, oh, what is that? What is this one doing? What is Julia Louis-Dreyfus doing? It's like, yeah, of course that makes sense. Why don't we want to save the environment? If marijuana helps you think and helps you heal, why wouldn't you allow that too?
Exactly.
Yeah. So tell us about Heisman. Like I said, Highsman. Yeah. As far as I can see, it's the intersection of sports and cannabis, for which almost all of my friends is their two favorite things.
Exactly. And that's it. It's one of those things. And it's, the deeper story behind Heisman is really about being yourself and being authentic. And what I realized back in 2004, when I retired after failing a drug test, and I started, I was ashamed. I thought everyone is going to hate me. I'm a bad person. I threw everything away. But it was actually the opposite. I realized that I had so many more friends, and I connected to so many more people. And I realized, how did this happen? And I realized people just lie. Because there's such a stigma and a taboo around cannabis, people just lie about their cannabis use. And hopefully Heisman is a brand to give people permission. You don't have to lie. And I think hopefully my story shows that, is that I was honest and I stuck true to myself. And in the end, we see. And now people pay me to smoke. So it's like if you're true to yourself and you stick to your guns, in the end, things work out. And so Heisman is, it's cannabis and sports, because if we're being honest, right, they go so well together. And we're trying to give people an excuse, a reason, a permission to celebrate that combination.
By the way, you should, I'm sorry to interrupt. You should give up, while we're talking Heisman, you should give out your Heisman trophy, Highsman, to the athlete who is the most productive athlete who's consumed the most marijuana. Have you considered this?
Well, I considered something similar, and you're on track, because I tell people it's not about a trophy. It's really about being high. And so if we're going to do a golf tournament, we call it a golf challenge, okay? And we've already started working on this. At each hole, there's some kind of consumption method, and you have to consume before you hit off the tee box. And it's competitive. So again, it's about celebrating these two things coming together. You want to get your friends that you smoke and play golf with, the best ones, get together and see if you can win this challenge. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. and I'm really looking forward to it.
I love it.
But you should, but the trophy, don't move on so quickly. I mean, that would be a neat bong. Like kind of, make the hand kind of thing. This
is the beauty of it. And this is what's so fun about our meetings is this is the first time that we've been allowed, and I think I might be the only person that can do it, bringing sports and cannabis together. And it's a brand. And so, there's merchandise, there's obviously cannabis products, but there's so many other things that we can brand. The idea came during the pandemic. One of the ways I make money on the side is signing memorabilia. And ever since I retired, I make about $50K a year signing a bunch of autographs. Well, the pandemic hit, and right before the pandemic, someone asked me to write a cannabis inscription. So I wrote like smoke weed every day after I signed my name, and they just caught fire. And I made 3 times as much money over the past 2 years signing autographs because people were loving these cannabis inscriptions.
Yeah.
And I had a light bulb go off and saying, all these people aren't Ricky Williams fans. These are sports and cannabis fans who have had no way to combine the two. And even it's just a football helmet that says something about smoking, and people are like, yeah. And so I realized there is a need for this, and people need a way to express their passion. And who better to bring this brand to life than me?
Yeah.
So you said how sports and cannabis, they're a brand two brands that go together. And how also you mentioned earlier how cannabis helped you connect with more and more people. And I've heard, Kyle Turley, former New Orleans Saint as well, talking. If you follow him on Twitter, you'll know he's all into the THC and the CBD. He's really a big proponent of it, right? I'm wondering, like, in your time in New Orleans, I grew up a Saints fan from New Orleans, so I remember watching, Channel 4, seeing the interviews with the helmets on. If you were able to smoke weed in that time, like openly, how differently would it have been for you and like some of your teammates?
Well, that's a great question because, to me, that question goes deeper than just cannabis. It goes really to being yourself. And I think there's this idea that in order to be successful in the world, you have to be someone different than yourself. And so for me, when I got in the NFL, I thought in my naive mind that once I made it to the NFL, that I could be myself. But once I got there, they just wanted to put me in another box. And so I felt that pressure to try to fit into that box, even though it wasn't me. And on top of that, all these rules were supposed to follow. And so it would have been great beyond just being able to consume cannabis, just being able to be myself and being seen and appreciated as a human being, not just an entertainer. And that was my big gripe with being a football player and being famous. Is I think if you're famous, people, it only works if people can really truly connect to you and connect to your story and live vicariously through. If they put you on a pedestal and there's no connection, to me that that's for the birds.
Yeah.
From where you sit now, if you can tell, do you feel like it's the same way, like with the advent of social media and the ability for people to just, like if Kyrie Irving wants to say something to the people, he can just turn on Instagram and talk to whoever he wants to, right? Do you feel like it's the same way now?
It's changed, back when I first got to Miami, and this was before anyone was doing this, is I started a blog called Run Ricky Run. And it was me like struggling with, my story is always told through someone else and people who don't get me, people who are not like me. And so it's never a real story. And so I started to tell my own story. And because I saw this coming, and I think it's so much more allowed for athletes to have a voice. Now I think the onus is on the athletes actually to use that voice. And I think what Kyrie is doing is wonderful, because he's standing up to the pressure to kowtow to the man or to the system. And he's affirming his right to be a human being with agency. And beyond just sports, I think racially, politically, I think that's important for all of us to acknowledge that we have free will and we can choose to do what we want to do to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Ricky, let me ask you about the specific products. Tell us which ones you're fond of, which ones where they're available, which states they're available. Do you have like a Snickers flavored strain of cannabis? How far do you take this?
Well, we have a Skittles flavor. We do have a Skittles flavor. So we're a lifestyle brand, and our initial launch is merch. So I'm wearing our baseball tee, and it's great. I play softball here in LA, and we got our whole softball team wearing Heisman gear. Nice. And that's really what I'm most excited about is the merchandise. And not only because it's my brand, but it's just cool to have your own stuff. And ever since our whole team had handed out the merch, I think on average, the whole team has lost at least 10 pounds. So this is the right. When you get new gear, you gotta, right. You look good when you play good, right? When you play good, when you look good. And so just the idea of being able to embody and wear something that I truly believe in and something that I stand up for is special. It's something that I didn't expect. And then on the cannabis side, we're launching in California next week. In 2 weeks, we'll be in Oregon. And then the first week in December, we'll be in Nevada. And we're launching with eighths. So 1/8 of an ounce prepackaged flower. And we have some interesting naming conventions. One of them is, instead of the traditional sativa indica hybrid, we're really more talking about, again, using sports terminology. And so sativas, which are more mental, they kind of get you up. We're calling that our pregame. And hybrids are kind of in the middle. We're calling that halftime. And then indicas are great for recovery. And we're calling that post game. And so again, it's, we're leaders in this, combining sports and cannabis. So it's fun to be able to create in this, and then also invite the community to help us create this new industry.
Yeah,
maybe you should name one Ditka, because I bet he wouldn't like that.
I don't want to give away too many of our secrets, but our actual cultivar, our actually strain names are athlete inspired. So
that's great.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. You can get real quick, Dave. You can get really specific and talk about, like, one strain could be named after diving for the pylon and fumbling as it hits it, right? Like there's
I'm good at that. That's my signature move. That's your move? Pylon. Okay. Yes. So for instance, like, I could announce this name. We're doing a collab with a great infused pre-roll company down in California called Jeter. And we're going to put out a pre-roll, and it's going to be called the Sticky Ricky. Right. And nice. One of the strains, one of the mixes will be Gorilla Glue. So just a hint of how we're having fun with this.
That's the most fun part of the process, probably. Go ahead, Jack.
Let's say you enjoy a little flower, and what city do you want with, let's say, The next 3 hours are yours to go anywhere you want. Do you want to be in Austin to go out to eat? Do you want to be in Miami to go out to eat? Or do you want to be in New Orleans? Which is the best food city after a little bit of tree burning?
You know, because part of tree burning is it's not just the food. You know, what do they say about entheogens or psychedelics? It's about set and setting.
Sure.
And so I think the set and setting is definitely New Orleans, because it's an experience. You go out, just the service, right? You go out to eat and it's an experience, not just the taste, but the people around, the conversations you overhear. It's rich.
Yeah.
I'm with 34 on this one.
It's a good one. All right, 34. I will ask you a sports question here. Are you more bummed out about what's happened to the Dolphins or the University of Texas, football-wise?
So, first of all, I'm not panicking over the University of Texas. You know, it's funny from the outside, you know, and you see broad strokes. People keep talking about Texas being back, but they're not. But when you have the magnifying glass and you're seeing, I can see the improvements, and the fact that as a running back, that we have a running back and we're committing to the run. And that if you look at, again, magnifying glass, if you look at the first half of the Oklahoma State game and the Oklahoma game, Texas played lights out football. They didn't finish, they didn't close it. So there needs to be improvement, but I like what Sark is doing, and I have a lot of hope for the future.
All right. I'm going to bring Scott Holmes in here. He's a huge Texas Longhorn. I think he has a horn actually growing from his navel.
Oh, yeah.
Scott, you had a question.
Hey, Ricky.
He's very nervous, so.
Good to
He
see
even
you.
grew his beard to look exactly like you, Ricky.
That's right. Ricky, my very first Texas game, I was on the field when you broke the record against A&M. Big game for me. And
How
you.
was that your first game? Who did you know?
I grew up in Amarillo, too far away. So that was the
How'd you get on the field? Like who?
I had press passes
Oh, impressive.
in the
I
know.
know. Yeah, you wouldn't think looking at him. He has a higher up connection, but he actually did this one.
Also, for your sticky Ricky, you should think about spliff arm. That could be a good name for the joint.
There you go.
Okay, my question for you is, what would be your dream smoke session, dead or alive? Who would be the guys or girls that you would like to have a session with? Okay,
number one on the list, and I would say the main inspiration behind Heisman is Bob Marley. A lot of people don't know, but he was a big-time soccer fan and soccer player. He was a competitor, and his son Rohan led University of Miami in tackles in 1993, I think it was. So, so Bob Marley would definitely be there. Who else?
He forgot
Martin Luther King.
Right.
He's a philosopher, so it would definitely be a philosophical conversation. Who else? Who in sports would I like? Jim Brown would be there. I love Jim.
Nice.
Yeah. He's seen a lot. He's been through a lot. He would be there. Let's see one more.
Chad Pennington.
No, he does not. He does not get the invitation.
He didn't make it?
Angela Davis and Maya Angelou, and I think that's
nice. That's a good list.
So that's pregame. That's pregame because I want it to be a heady kind of philosophical conversation. And a lot of times the pregame will get you chatting. We'll get you talking.
There you go. All right, Scott. Disappear, Scott.
Great question. Thank you.
Well, Ricky, thanks for coming on. This is terrific. We learned a lot about Heisman, your new company, your new product. We learned about Snickers. We learned about your favorite people who you'd want to smoke with. It's terrific. And this is I don't have to tell you, this is going to take off in a big, big way. Ricky Williams, thanks for coming on, pal.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.